The night in Atlanta was supposed to be just another glamorous evening for the Married to Medicine cast, but what unfolded was nothing short of shocking, heartbreaking, and unforgettable. Dr. Heavenly, known for her strong personality and unapologetic attitude, faced the revelation that would change everything. Sweet Tea, someone she thought she knew, was secretly involved with her husband, Dr. Damon. As the truth hit, Dr. Heaven's emotions exploded. The room, once filled with laughter and casual chatter, fell silent. Cameras captured every heartbeat, every gasp, every sharp intake of breath, as tension thickened. No one could have anticipated the storm that was about to break in a moment that left everyone frozen. Dr. Heavenly, overwhelmed by betrayal, raised her hand and slapped Sweet Tea. The sound echoed like a thunderclap across the room, leaving Sweet Tea stunned, hurt, and shaking. For a brief instant, time seemed to stop. The raw shock, the silent disbelief, the betrayal, all crashing down in a single heartbeat. This wasn't just a slap. It was the physical manifestation of weeks, months, maybe years of buried frustration and heartache. Fans watching at home were torn apart emotionally. Some saw Dr. Heavenly as a woman pushed to the edge by deceit and betrayal. A mother, a wife, a human being pushed beyond reason. Others couldn't condone the violence, sympathizing with Sweet Tea, who had to bear the brunt of someone else's anger in public view. The emotional intensity of this moment transcended reality TV. It was raw, tragic, and unforgettable. A clash of trust, love, and betrayal that left everyone speechless. Social media erupted as fans reacted, debated, and cried alongside the women, proving that sometimes reality is more shocking than fiction. For Dr. A, Heavenly, and Sweet Tea, this night will be etched into their memories forever. A painful reminder that betrayal cuts deep, and sometimes emotions explode in the most public, uncontrollable ways. The evening had started like any other for the cast of Married to Medicine Atlanta. The chandeliers glimmered softly above. The music played lightly in the background and laughter floated through the air. But beneath the veneer of glamour, tension was simmering. Tension that no one, not even the cameras, could fully capture. Dr. Heavenly, known for her commanding presence and unapologetic attitude, walked in with her head held high, unaware that the night would soon spiral into a storm of betrayal, heartbreak, and explosive emotion. At first, everything seemed normal. Conversations flowed, glasses clinked, and the usual banter of friends and classmates filled the room. But the undercurrent was undeniable. Dr. Heaven's gaze fell on Sweet Tea, a woman whose smile masked secrets, whose charm hid a betrayal that would soon come to light. Sweet Tea's hidden affair with Dr. Damon, Dr. Heavenly's husband, was a revelation waiting to explode, and the moment of truth was unavoidable. The air grew heavier with each passing second, as if the room itself knew that nothing would ever be the same. And then it happened. The revelation landed like a thunderbolt. Dr. Heavenly's eyes widened, her chest tightened, and a storm of emotion erupted inside her. Shock, hurt, anger, disbelief, all collided in a chaotic whirlwind. The audience watching at home could almost feel the electricity crackling through the room. Cameras captured every detail. The subtle twitch of a jaw, the narrowing of eyes, the tense pause before words became actions. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only with the sound of hearts racing and breaths held. Dr. Heavenly's emotions, long simmering beneath the surface, could no longer be contained. Weeks of suspicion, months of tension, and years of frustration culminated in a single explosive moment. Her hand shot out, propelled by rage and heartbreak, and connected with Sweet Tea's cheek in a sharp, unforgettable slap. The room froze instantly. Time itself seemed to halt, as if reality could not process the raw power of the act. Sweet Tea's face registered shock, hurt, and a profound sense of disbelief. Her world had been turned upside down in an instant, and there was no going back. This was more than a physical altercation. It was the manifestation of emotions too long buried, of trust shattered, and love betrayed. It was a visual representation of pain, fury, and heartbreak, a tragic display that left everyone present speechless. Dr. Heavenly stood for a moment, breathing hard, her own eyes wide with the sudden realization of what she had done. The cameras, relentless and unforgiving, captured every beat, every tremor of emotion, immortalizing the tragedy for the world to witness. Social media erupted within minutes. Fans and followers were divided, their hearts aching as they processed the event. Some understood Dr. Heavenly, empathizing with the unbearable weight of betrayal, the intense pain of discovering that someone she trusted had secretly fractured her world. They saw a woman pushed to her limits, a mother, a wife, a human being reacting to a storm she had no power to stop. Others were horrified, condemning the violence, feeling sorrow for Sweet Tea, whose life had been violently disrupted in front of cameras and thousands of eyes. The internet buzzed with theories, arguments, and heartbreak, a digital echo of the tragedy unfolding in real time. Yet amidst the chaos, the scene revealed deeper truths. It exposed vulnerabilities hidden behind facades, the raw fractures in relationships that reality television often glosses over. Dr. Heaven's anger was not mindless. It was the culmination of suspicion, betrayal, and unresolved pain. Sweet Tea's stunned silence reflected the shock of being exposed, the vulnerability of being human, and the weight of actions she had perhaps not fully anticipated. In that room, reality and raw emotion collided, leaving a scar that would not easily heal. The aftermath of the slap was a study in emotional complexity. Silence filled the space, broken only by whispered words, uncertain glances, and the subtle hum of tension that refused to dissipate. Dr. Heavenly, momentarily overwhelmed by the enormity of her actions, grappled with regret, understanding that this night would forever alter the dynamics of her relationships. Sweet Tea, meanwhile, tried to process the shock, the sting, and the public humiliation, all while maintaining a composure that was both fragile and resilient. This moment, raw and unfiltered, became a symbol of the emotional intensity that reality television can capture and sometimes exploit. It was a tragedy unfolding in real time, a perfect storm of trust betrayed, hearts broken, and emotions unleashed. For the viewers, it was impossible to look away. The blend of glamour and pain, of laughter and heartbreak, created a narrative so compelling that it could not be ignored. Every detail mattered. The subtle gestures, the unspoken words, the tension that built like a pressure cooker. Each added layer deepened the impact. The cameras, silent witnesses to the unraveling drama, ensured that no moment would be forgotten. Fans debated endlessly. Could anyone truly blame Dr. Heavenly? Was Sweet Tea deserving of empathy? How could such intense emotions manifest in the most public, unforgiving way imaginable? The questions were endless, the heartbreak palpable. As the night wore on, the emotional ripples continued. Conversations became tentative, glances wary, and the atmosphere charged with unspoken tension. Every step, every gesture carried the weight of what had transpired. The room, once filled with camaraderie and casual fun, had transformed into a crucible of emotion, a place where raw human feelings clashed with social expectations, where betrayal and heartbreak were laid bare for all to witness. This was not just television, it was a tragedy, a moment of human fragility captured in the harsh light of reality TV. It reminded viewers that behind the glamour and scripted interactions, real people with real emotions face moments that are impossible to anticipate and impossible to control. The slap was a spark, but the fire it ignited was a testament to years of hidden grievances, simmering frustrations, and emotional turbulence that had nowhere to go. For Dr. Heavenly and Sweet Tea, the night was a turning point. It marked the collapse of trust, the eruption of pent-up anger, and the unforgettable impact of betrayal made visible. For the audience, it was a lesson in emotional intensity, a glimpse into the raw, unfiltered consequences of human emotion, amplified by the relentless lens of reality television. It was tragic, shocking, and unforgettable, a moment that would echo in the minds and hearts of fans long after the cameras stopped rolling. The aftermath of that unforgettable night sent shockwaves far beyond the confines of the room. Dr. Heavenly's hand had struck Sweet Tea, but the impact rippled through hearts, minds, and the very fabric of relationships within the Married to Medicine Atlantic cast. What had started as a revelation of betrayal had now become a moment of public heartbreak, a spectacle of raw human emotion that no one could ignore. As cameras continued to roll, the tension was almost tangible. The room that once buzzed with casual chatter was now heavy with silent judgment and unspoken fear. Cast members glanced nervously at each other, uncertain how to respond, torn between loyalty, morality, and the instinct to protect themselves from the emotional fallout. Every eye was on Dr. Heavenly and Sweet Tea, whose expressions mirrored the turbulence of a storm that had been unleashed without warning. Sweet Tea's shock was palpable. Her hand instinctively touched her cheek, a subtle gesture betraying the sting of humiliation, betrayal, and confusion. She struggled to find words, her voice trembling as she attempted to regain composure in a space that offered no sanctuary. The cameras, unblinking and relentless, captured every micro-expression, the widening of her eyes, the slight tremor in her jaw, the quiet intake of breath that spoke volumes. It was a silent cry, a plea for understanding, and a reminder of the raw pain that betrayal brings. Meanwhile, Dr. Heavenly stood frozen for a moment, adrenaline and heartbreak colliding in her chest. The slap was an eruption, yes, but it was also an expression of every ounce of frustration, disappointment, and anguish she had carried in silence. She had been pushed to a breaking point, a human reaction to a betrayal so intimate and devastating that reason had been momentarily eclipsed by emotion. Her breaths were quick, shallow, but her eyes reflected a storm of regret and clarity. She knew the act could never be undone, yet it had been impossible to stop. Fans at home could feel the tragedy as it unfolded. Social media ignited almost immediately with posts, comments, and videos flooding timelines. Some defended Dr. Heavenly, arguing that betrayal of this magnitude would drive anyone to the edge. They spoke of long nights, sleepless worries, and the unspoken emotional labor of holding a family together while facing deception. Others rallied behind Sweet Tea, condemning the violence and mourning the pain of a woman who had been publicly humiliated, whose trust had been shattered in front of millions. The debate was fierce, emotional, and relentless, a mirror of the human conflict that had just been played out in real time. The emotional landscape of that night was layered and complex for Dr. the Heavenly. It was about more than just anger. It was about the collapse of trust, the betrayal of a marriage, and the frustration of being blindsided in the most intimate way possible. For Sweet Tea, it was shock, disbelief, and the acute pain of being thrust into the center of a public spectacle against her will. The room itself seemed to hold its breath, bearing witness to a tragedy that was both personal and universally relatable. As the evening progressed, the tension did not dissipate. Conversations became fractured, smiles forced, and glances laden with judgment and worry. Every step, every gesture carried the weight of the slap, the betrayal, and the emotional upheaval that followed. It was as if the air itself had thickened with the gravity of human emotion. Every heartbeat synchronized to the collective shock and heartbreak of the moment. Behind the cameras, production staff and cast members scrambled to mediate, to redirect energy, and to salvage some semblance of calm. But the emotional reality was undeniable. Trust had been broken, anger had erupted, and hearts were wounded. The night became a study in human fragility, a tragic reminder that even in environments crafted for entertainment, the pain of betrayal is raw, palpable, and unforgettable. For Dr. Heavenly, the aftermath was a delicate balancing act. Public perception, personal grief, and the visceral weight of what had transpired demanded attention, reflection, and response. For Sweet Tea, the challenge was internal, processing the humiliation, heartbreak, and public scrutiny while maintaining dignity and composure in a space that offered none. Both women were trapped in a moment where emotion ruled logic, and the consequences would ripple for weeks, months, and possibly years. Ultimately, this wasn't just a scene, it was a tragedy, a moment of human vulnerability amplified by the glare of cameras and the eyes of millions. It was raw, it was heartbreaking, and it was unforgettable. Every tear shed, every tremor of anger, and every pang of betrayal was captured in a lens that would broadcast it to the world, leaving viewers emotionally raw, tearful, and in awe of the intense, unfiltered drama of human relationships. The night of that slap would be remembered not as an isolated act, but as a symbol of the emotional volatility that life and reality television can expose. For Dr. Mita, a heavenly and sweet tea. It was a wound that would not heal easily, a lesson in trust and human emotion, and a dramatic, unforgettable chapter in the saga of Married to Medicine Atlanta. The storm of the evening did not end with the slap. It only grew fiercer as the night unfolded. Dr. Heavenly's hand had struck Sweet Tea, but the emotional tremors rippled far beyond that one shocking act. The room, once a space of celebration, had transformed into a crucible of heartbreak, tension, and unspoken grief. Every glance carried suspicion, every whisper seemed to echo betrayal, and the cameras, merciless and unblinking, captured it all. Sweet Tea sat frozen for moments that stretched like hours, her mind racing with disbelief. How could a hidden affair, something she thought was carefully concealed, erupt into a moment of public humiliation? Her cheeks stung, but the sting was nothing compared to the emotional blow of being exposed in front of friends, classmates, and the ever-watchful eyes of reality TV cameras. Each heartbeat pounded like a drum of heartbreak, each breath a reminder of the trust shattered in a single instant. Dr. Heavenly, on the other hand, felt a storm of conflicting emotions, rage, betrayal, regret, and sorrow intertwined into a chaos that seemed impossible to untangle. She had been pushed to the edge, but now that the action was done, a wave of realization crashed over her. The slap was irrevocable. Sweet Tea's stunned silence, the wide eyes of cast members, and the camera lenses all bore witness to a tragedy that could not be reversed. The emotional weight of the moment pressed down on her chest, heavy and suffocating. As the night wore on, the social media reaction became a whirlwind of commentary, outrage, sympathy, and heartbreak. Fans took sides instantly, some supporting Dr. A. Heavenly, empathizing with the unbearable pain of betrayal and the crushing weight of deceit. Others rallied behind Sweet Tea, condemning the violence and mourning the public shaming she endured. Every post, every comment, every reaction amplified the intensity of the night, turning a single act into a viral emotional earthquake. Behind the cameras, the cast struggled to regain some semblance of order. Conversations were strained, smiles forced, and every gesture was laden with tension. The air was thick with unspoken emotions, a palpable reminder of how betrayal and heartbreak can twist even the most controlled spaces into theaters of raw, unfiltered human vulnerability. Every eye seemed to flicker between sympathy and judgment, between loyalty and fear, and every soul in the room felt the weight of what had just transpired. For Dr. Heavenly, the night became a crucible of reflection. She grappled with her actions, realizing that while the slap was fueled by betrayal, it also revealed years of unresolved pain, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. Her tears were silent, hidden moments of grief for trust, lust, for love tarnished, and for the irreversibility of human emotion. Sweet Tea, meanwhile, wrestled with a different pain, a blend of shock, humiliation, and the terrifying clarity of being caught in the crossfire of someone else's heartbreak. The cameras captured every second, every micro-expression, every flicker of emotion, turning the night into a public study of tragedy and human fragility. Each glance, each pause, each subtle quiver of the lip told a story of heartbreak, anger, and vulnerability. The tension was not just drama. It was the raw, painful truth of what happens when trust is broken, when secrets are revealed, and when emotions erupt in ways that can never be fully contained. As the episode aired and fans processed what they had witnessed, the narrative became larger than just a moment on television. It was a lesson in emotional intensity, a window into the consequences of betrayal, and a testament to the unpredictable power of human emotion. The slap, though brief, had sparked a firestorm that touched hearts, provoked tears, and left viewers reflecting on the fragility of trust and the devastating impact of deception. Ultimately, the night stood as a tragic, unforgettable chapter in the lives of Dr. M's Heavenly and Sweet Tea. It was a clash of trust and betrayal, rage and heartbreak, emotion and consequence, played out in the harsh, unforgiving light of reality television. For the audience, it was a moment that transcended entertainment, leaving them emotionally raw, tearful, and profoundly affected. For Dr. The Heavenly and Sweet Tea, it was a wound that would echo for years, a reminder that even the most composed personas can shatter when the weight of human emotion becomes too heavy to bear. The drama, heartbreak, and emotional intensity of that night would not soon be forgotten. It was not just a scene, it was a tragic spectacle of raw humanity, a viral moment that proved the devastating power of betrayal, the unstoppable force of pent-up emotion, and the enduring impact of heartbreak exposed to the world. Every viewer who watched felt it in their bones, the fragility, the sorrow, and the explosive, unforgettable intensity of a moment that would live forever in the annals of reality TV history. Can you imagine the heartbreak, the shock, the raw intensity of betrayal caught in real time? This isn't just drama. This is a moment where emotions explode, where trust shatters, and where the consequences of secrets and lies hit harder than ever. Dr. The Heavenly World was rocked to its core, and Sweet Tea's life was turned upside down in front of millions of eyes. The air was thick with tension, hearts were racing, and every viewer at home felt the weight of the tragedy unfold before them. Now, we want to hear from you. How would you react if you discovered a betrayal so deep, so personal, it left you trembling with anger and heartbreak? Could you hold yourself back? Or would emotions take over like a storm? This moment is more than entertainment. It's a raw emotional reality check, and your voice matters in this conversation. Click that subscribe button and join the discussion as we break down every shocking detail, every tear, every tremor of heartbreak. Don't miss a second of the explosive fallout, the emotional chaos, and the viral moments that fans everywhere are talking about. Share your thoughts, comment your reactions, and be part of the community that experiences the highs, the lows, and the heartbreaks of reality TV in the most emotionally intense way possible. The story doesn't end here. The drama, the betrayal, and the heartbreak will continue to unfold, and you need to be here to witness every shocking, unforgettable, tear-inducing moment. Subscribe now. Hit the notification bell and prepare yourself for the raw truth behind the scandal that left Atlanta and the world speechless,